Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the last Zulus event I'm doing for the OP03 format. It was a double box tournament, so that means we had 2 boxes of prize and giveaway for it. We had 64 players, which was the cap of it, and we got this top 16 breakdown as well. And so if you guys want to also see the VOD for this, I did stream this with Garrett from The Worst Generation, which was a lot of fun. I'm really happy we were able to do that. It is on my Twitch here. I also did some OP04 testing on there, and I'll be continue doing some OP04 testing on my Twitch stream until we get into OP04. So if you guys want to see some action, some testing, and everything else, make sure to check out my Twitch. I'm going to be pretty active on there as well. So jumping on into this breakdown again, this is our last one for OP03. There will be more for OP04 as well once that gets out, so make sure to be on the look on it. But on these top 16, we do see 4 Zoros, 4 Katakuris, 2 Laws with one of them winning it, 2 Doffys, a Rob Lucci, a Star Deck Kid, an Edward Newgate, as well as an ace sneaking in onto that 16th place. And we also do have the leader breakdown for this. So Zoro was most common for this one. We only had 1 Newgate, which is like the smallest I've seen in a top 16 like all season. I mean, I know that this is a little bit more of a casual event. At least it was a 64 event, 64 players, and it was a like a larger locals if you really want to consider it like that. But it was you have to still win 6 times in a row to get that first place, which Adrian did. So just kind of more of a less grindy in the sense that I think people were playing decks that they were enjoying, not necessarily the best deck they would take for regionals, but more kind of like an in between of locals and kind of regionals, like a really like high level kind of testing session for some of these decks. So we're gonna go over the top placing list for each one of these leaders, starting off with their first place, Trafalgar Law. So this is again Adrian's list for this one, and I've been seeing like a lot of different copies of Law, and this one had like a couple of unique choices, including the Uruj, which I haven't really thought about this card since the starter decks released. It's been a minute for this one. So if you have 3 more characters, this character gains plus 2k power, and this is Dawn ×1, so it's honestly pretty easy for this. It's also Supernova, which means it's findable off the Bonnie. So I'm curious to see how well this tech worked for them. Also running 2 copies of Killer to pop stuff with cost of 3 or less, which can pop out of your life if you need it to, but just a couple of I'd say unique pieces for this. Normally the green pack is kind of what is usually partly just beige Bonnie, the Trafalgar Laws Brook, if you're feeling it. This is kind of started off as like unexistent or non-existent to pretty popular to kind of just a tech choice as it is right now. And then also like and then Basil Hawkins if you're feeling it too, which is just in this version just like another copy of Law, at least like replacing a spot for it. So these are some interesting green cards, and I wonder if it's kind of a situation where they weren't able to find their pieces consistently, or like the colors were off, and maybe just even finding like just more supernovas for this, because both of those do kind of consider that. So I think that it is pretty unique. I'd be curious to try this. This does seem kind of tempting, kind of early game, because being able to make this a 5k for 1 Dawn is great, and then obviously on the offense this is a 6k on your turn, as long as you have those 3 or more characters, which is again pretty easy in Law compared to I think a lot of other decks. So interesting tech, and congratulations to Adrian for their finish there. And then next up we have the Rob Lucci. So I've kind of said this a lot, that there's kind of like 3 versions of Lucci. There's a CP9 version there, which is essentially the air door version that we see here, the kind of the hybrid, and then like the navy version. So this is obviously the air door, which you do have to be a little bit careful with this card, finding the right pieces. If you've ever whiffed with this, I've been so far lucky enough to never whiff. Sometimes the non-whiff is a Spandam, which is still really bad to play a Spandam for 4, but it's sometimes what we have to do for it. But there are a lot of good targets for this one on curve, including Kaku, which you can immediately play, which is really strong, the Bluno, as well as the Jabra. Jabra is a newer card that I've been adding to my air door versions, where sometimes just a 5/7 on, like, not even on curve, but early curve, is just really oppressive. It's very good for trading to stuff, putting a lot of pressure on your opponent. 7k versus a 6 or 5k just means they have to discard at least 2 cards to get out of this, or get like the defense for it. And then we have the Sakazuki at the top, as well as the Isho, which we aren't playing brand new, which makes sense because we aren't running a lot of Navy stuff, and we don't really have room since we have to be running more of the CP9 engine, and I think that just kind of makes sense for it. So again, this is the list for Nikhil for I think second place. Yeah, second place with Rob Lucci, and I think this Lucci is really strong. I like what it's been doing. I think it has a lot of general variety with what it does, and it's as like a generic black leader, it's still I think very good going into the next set. So there we go. Congratulations to Nikhil for their finish there. And the next up we have George's Zoro list, and this one's kind of the off meta version of Zoro, where it's the non-event version. I think with the inclusion of Buggy into this new set, that Buggy was like pretty popular for the format, so people were just jamming a lot of events, maybe too many events, and sometimes for like what Buggy is, maybe not enough events. But being able to use that card to help you find your, get some card advantage, also be a 3K that Zoro can make a 5K very, very easily. It kind of makes sense for that, but at the same time, a little bit bricky at times, a little bit cloggy, and you can get a little bit more of just, I'd say, raw aggression by having just like the non-event version. So there's Sunny, which is pretty much a Buggy, but is a 1K, and it's also findable off the Nami, which is really nice. We're still playing the Marcos, even though we're not playing any events. And kind of the beauty about this deck too is that people right now are just always assuming that events are in your hand as a Zoro player, so they'll never try to get rid of this Marco anyway. So being able to get that additional advantage of like this is just a 6K that your opponent's never going to try to get rid of, which is kind of nice. So and if they do, it's still like you gain advantage by defending a 6K instead of a 5K, which is cool. And then because of that, we also have just some room for more removal. So we're playing 3 copies of the Vista. We're also able to play the Haruta, which helps you just get like a Dawn on your Zoro every turn, which is nice. And then kind of our quote unquote top end with the Luffy and the Newgate at 9 as well. So obviously a little bit more aggressive with obvious like the 4 Makinos and the 4 Magras to push that advantage. But there we go there. So congratulations to George for their finish there. Next up we have our Doflamingo, and I think this deck is pretty understood at this point. I don't have a lot of things, and mostly because it's a deck that is just really, really based off of the cards that the 7 Warlords, right? And so since there's not really like a lot of new cards for that in the that exist right now, I think that's kind of the reason that it is. We do kind of have some decisions of like what 2K we like. Alvida versus Kaya. I think Kaya can get you some more cycle if you need to, but it is you don't play this on curve. Sometimes I can see playing Alvida on curve as well. There aren't any copies of the Gum Gum Jet Rain, which I do like that one in this deck, like 1 or 2 copies, because sometimes you do have just one too many Mihawks in hand, or just like a 3,000 Worlds that won't be doing anything throughout the game. So I do like having that as like a tech for you, but otherwise I think this deck is strong in what it is. I do like Mihawk, and I think Mihawk also gets more relevant next set, specifically because Mihawk I think is like blue in general is just a better color, and so by this is just kind of just the generic boss monster, at least generic 9-drop for the deck. Gets a lot of advantage, a lot of tempo, and then it's a 9K that your opponent's going to have a hard time getting rid of easily, I think, more times than not. So I do like this card, and I think in Doffy it's great, and it's going to be good again in set 4. So there's a list there. Congratulations to Chris for their finish with Doflamingo. And then next up we have one of our Katakuris. This is Justin's version of the Katakuri list, and I've been seeing a lot of Katakuris. It's obviously Yellow has the smallest card pool in the game right now, and I don't have a lot to say specifically about Yellow right now. I know Yellow's going to get a whole lot more cards, pretty much double in size in this next set, just which is really nice, and have some better kind of high ends, even though this is a color that kind of just thrives with a bunch of the 7-drop Linlin is very good, the 8-drop Katakuri is very good, and then obviously the 10-drop, no need to explain how good this card is, so that's good. I do respect the 1 of Tamago, so respect to Justin for playing the best 4-drop in this game, and everything else from there. But we've been seeing Yellow, we see what's good. The event cards, you can either run like very little, you can be really explosive with it, and then also the Yamato, which is going to be we're going to get more vanillas of these Big Bomb Pirates that you can play on 5 and 6 curve, which I think is great. So Yamato is going to have to leave, which is unfortunate because I really do like the art of this card, but we're gonna get some replacements for those too. But that's the list there. Congratulations to Justin for their finish. And then we have our Captain Kid, which is running the film package, and I've been bouncing back and forth, and I was talking to Garrett on the stream as well that I do think that the Kid version, what version of Kid Supernova is just probably like a little bit better right now into kind of some of the matchups. Film does get a lot of like tempo and advantage if you're able to get there at the right time, and I do enjoy the film package in general. I think it's still something that's going to be strong into the next set, but I think Doffy is going to be the new leader for a lot of those cards. So, but obviously Nami being able to use that to get some card advantage. This can, pretty easily draw 2 for 2 Dawn, which isn't too bad, as well as do a 5k swing, which is really nice. We do have the 7-drop Luffy as well, which, being able to get that tempo of playing, a 7k blocker is really great. Even if you attack with it and they try to attack into this, it just means like you blocked early, which is fine for you, and being able to get that advantage for you, and playing the mega combo of Brook into Nami or Brook into Usopp, even just playing Luffy into a Zoro, I think is really strong for you, and gets that advantage there. And we do have the Bartholomew, which is a little expensive right now. I think it's getting a little bit better, but being able to like swing with your Luffy, not feel too bad about resetting it is pretty good. And then we do run a good amount of events. We have 3 copies of Paradise Waterfall, 2 copies of Punk Gibson, 2 copies of the 3-sword style Onigiri, which can play our rest up to 1/5 or less, which has a pretty good effect into your life. It can also play the Usopp out of your hand for free as well. And then also we do have one of the I Will Become the Pirate King. So this is a promo card that's kind of been messed around with a little bit. I think any leader that can swing twice could take advantage of it. So Eustace Kid and Kuro, at least in green. So your leader gets plus 1k power during the turn for each of your characters. So you have to have at least 3 characters on board for this to be, above average for you. And then also the trigger for it is your leader or up to one of your characters gets plus 1k power during this turn. So a little bit of a cheese card, but something that would kind of make sense for Eustace Captain Kidd, especially in the film archetype, because you are able to kind of go wide. And it's a supernova, which just means that Bonnie can find it if you really need to. So it's a cute little tech. I don't think it comes up very often, but I did want to mention it there too. So that's the list there. Congratulations to Andrew for their finish. And then next up we have James's with Newgate. And I don't think this format, as I said before, I've gotten this deep into a video without talking about Newgate, but here we are. This is running more of the Straw Hat versions. The top end for a lot of these decks are looking pretty similar. I think not every version is playing like the 1-drop Nami, but I personally feel like that's the way that I would do it, because there's just so many good cards you can find off of it, especially just all of your events, like your Radical Beams and Guard Points. That's just like not too bad for like one drop, and then later it's something you can buff up with Makino and get rid of, or even just like putting 3 underneath Nami for like another swing's not too terrible for the deck. So just so many good search targets that I'd rather play Nami than not, even though it can occasionally bottom deck like your Marco or your Newgate. I think being able to have the access to a Rad Beam or Guard Point off the Nami is just too powerful for you. So even like late game, like if you know that you need to find that card, being able to like play it, look top 5 is very strong. So otherwise pretty generic for what we've been seeing. Sanji's our 2k, 2 copies of Nico Robin, which has been a little bit of a tech card, but I do agree if you're playing the Namis, it's another target for there, and helps out your odd turns if you end up going first. So that's the list there. Congratulations to James for their finish. And to wrap it up, we've got our 16th place ace list. So this is Frank's list for this one, and being a little bit, I'd say, of a greedier value list, especially seeing the 3 copies of Striker, which is a generically good card. Like the fact that this does draw cards is great. You look top 5 for an event card, which is half our deck, and most of the cards that we're wanting to see most of the time are event cards anyways. So I think that's helpful for the deck, and just really, really strong for it. So otherwise, we do have our good amount of events, and these ratios are usually very custom for what you want to see for it. For Red Hawks is quite a few, I will say, for that one. And also the round table, having one of these to give something minus 10k and help you get some removal with either like a Sea Quake, or even just using it to attack into something, I think is strong. Like you could have like an Otama on board from last turn, use round table on something, have that Otama swing and get that additional value, which is nice. So but I think Ace is in an okay spot, definitely better than I thought with the post restriction. It's been a month later and it's still getting the occasional tops, even in regionals, and I think that's pretty strong, and just shout out to the players who are able to get that there. So anyways, that is the breakdown for this event. Again, thank you again to Zulus for helping me run all of these events for OP03. Really looking forward to the OP04 format, and hope to see you guys in those ones as well. So that's going to be it this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.